Hi, I'm glad that we were able to get together today. And I know that anyone else that's looking for some strategies to help connect with people and also give an opportunity for reflection, this is a really good one. It's called Food for Thought. Um, Kristeena, what do you kind of take from this, or what's your take on this activity, or what it could be used for?
I mean, I think this is a great activity to really get people thinking about things in a kind of a non-direct way. I really like the metaphors it uses. They do a lot of this in like DBT activities and different types of reflection activities. So I just think it's a really great way to kind of present information to adults, kids, just anybody you're trying to get more information from. And it allows them to kind of go as deep or as surface as they want. I mean, you really don't have to go into super vulnerable, responses if you don't want to. So.
I agree. And I like the visual of it on the next slide that you have. It kind of puts everything into context, right? If you just kind of ask these questions kind of from a list of questions or something like that, they kind of seem, like you said, maybe a little like you have to be a little vulnerable, but if it's kind of put in this context of like this place setting of which is something that's very familiar to us, then we can kind of compartmentalize some of the things that we're feeling and it doesn't seem so overwhelming.
Yeah, and I'm going to go ahead and switch because you mentioned the visual. Something I just thought of when you were saying that too is that this kind of, I guess for the most part, this symbolizes a place of safety, a place of connection. So I think, yeah, although you don't have to be vulnerable, it kind of sets the tone that this is a safe place to be vulnerable. So
Agreed. Agreed. So I like just something that you can do again if you're connecting with people in the classroom. If this could be something that is done, just kind of the visual can be shown in a Zoom meeting or be added to a Google Classroom as an attachment. And the directions are to kind of put a value on all of the things on this play setting, right? So, for example, the first one, you see a plate there in the middle. And it asks, or the directions say, to ask yourself, what is on your plate at the moment?
So I'll go ahead and answer this, and I do apologize for that. My son was in the background saying something, and I was like, okay, mute or not mute, because again, this is new territory for everybody. So that is something that's on my plate. It's being able to be here and work and provide support to staff and other and students, but also managing being a mom and having to provide education for my son. So I'm pretty sure like a lot of people are experiencing that. So right now, that would be something that's on my plate. What about you, Rebekah?
Something that's on my plate, other than the work in the technology, this huge like fusion integration of technology, that's kind of been like where most of my focus is, because I feel like a lot of the other things have kind of just fallen into place. But just integrating technology on a more meaningful level, on a more independent level, right? Because we have a fantastic team of tech folks that are willing and ready to help, but they are so overwhelmed. And so I've really on my plate right now, I'm trying to figure some of this out on my own. And like you said, sometimes it's not perfect. I mean, our tech team puts out some very polished products, but I just have to be comfortable with just really kind of being genuine and kind of showing that, like you said, everyone just kind of has these obstacles and these hurdles that keep them from doing some of the work that they would want to do. So that's what's on my plate right now.
Well, thank you for sharing.
Yeah.
The next one, and I guess you could go in any order. I do like to save the cup and the napkin for last because they're more strengths-based. I guess it could be considered that way, maybe not. But the next one would be what do I have? The knife. What is cutting away at you or your time? So something that's kind of cutting into your self-care or the time that you have for you.
You know what? Honestly, I think it's the lack of schedule. It's a lack of routine that's really cutting into um, seemingly all this time that we have, right? We're home all day long instead of having to get up early and go to, get ready and fight traffic. But I feel like that's cutting into time because I'm not understanding how to utilize that time just yet. And so just the lack of routine actually is what's cutting into my time right now, if that makes any sense.
I completely agree. Like before you can schedule out, and I'll speak from a parent perspective, like, yeah, I'm around my son all day, but I'm not necessarily interacting with him all day, if that makes any sense, because we're in the same building, same room, but I'm still having to kind of play around with this time and make it make sense. So because it's not structured and I have like, oh, this is when I go to work, this is when I come home, this is when I hang out with my kid, it does kind of cut into that. But I'm, really trying to kind of manage that, and I'm sure everybody is. So, but yeah, that's kind of interesting, and I totally understand where you're coming from on that one.
Okay, good.
You're not alone.
Good.
Okay. So the next one is the fork, and it says something new that you'd like to take a stab at. So we have a lot of time, not a lot of time as we just discussed, but we have, I think, kind of some idle time, some background time to kind of finish projects at home in between phone calls, in between meetings. So what's something new you'd like to take a stab at? For example, everybody's offering like free workout classes on Facebook, or, this subscription. And for me, like, I've taken up learning hula because there's a free, streaming on Facebook. I would never ever step into a studio and practice hula in the public, because no, but I'll do it in the privacy of my own home. So that's something that I'm kind of taking a stab at. So what about
I
you?
like that. I love that. Mine's not as well. I guess it's kind of subjective, but I'm kind of along the same lines of kind of taking advantage of some of these subscriptions and these free trials, and just kind of getting out of my comfort zone a little bit. And a lot of them have been some art classes that are kind of being live streamed, or just a lot more accessibility to some lessons and things like that. And art is kind of not, it's not a strength of mine, but I think it's a good way, it's a good form of expression. And so that's something that I would like to explore and expand on. So I'm gonna take a stab at trying to learn art from a virtual perspective.
I like that. And you know what? We're all learning new things, and we're all learning how to adapt to this situation. So anything that we're doing to make ourselves grow is a good thing. The next one is the spoon, and it says, you probably don't want to be spoon fed, but list the things that you would like help with.
Things that I would like help with. I think just I my goal has been to initiate a lot of social connections, and I would like to see more people kind of do the same thing. I would like help with kind of spreading this message and casting a wider net and getting some sort of momentum going with that. So I would like help with um, not only encouraging other people to do the same thing, but also being on the receiving end of those. It really is, it really means something to me when people reach out and are just kind of checking in on people. I do it because I know how much it means to me. So I like to be very intentional about checking on friends and family on a more consistent basis. And so I think that that's something that I would like help with. What about you?
That's awesome. I like the way you worded that. I think it is important to kind of get help in spreading all the stuff that we're trying to. And what came to mind is like that talk and walk, like really
Mm-hmm.
pushing that out there so people do it, because it'll make everybody better and make everybody feel better. Mine is kind of along the lines, in a sense, and I think we've talked about this before, is like my brain just pops ideas out like no other, like boom, 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 boom. But for me, I really need help on execution and steps and sequence and details, because I'm just like a big picture thinker, which is great. I'm happy about it. I love that strength. But to be able to team up and have somebody help you, you know, get that stuff out and arrange it and get it done like this. So I appreciate that you're helping me get, helping us get this done. Like that's where I am totally open for help, is kind of execution of ideas and stuff like that. So that would be my answer for that one. The next one is the napkin. The napkin is what protects you, or who protects you, or what do you think is something that protects you?
For me, I would say definitely my personal faith and my family, my connections. We've always had a close knit family, and kind of able to maintain that has been something that is definitely a protective factor for me. Putting faith into something that is well beyond my understanding of things is definitely the biggest factor for me.
I agree. I think that's really important for a lot of people. Um, I also believe that faith is important. And for me, being just a single parent and it's just me and my son, I think gratitude is protecting me and staying active is protecting me along with faith. And I don't know, just making sure when I'm helping others, I'm also taking care of me. So that kind of helps me stay motivated to take care of me and my son. It's, because others need you, so you're gonna make sure you're there for them too. So I feel like gratitude and like physical well-being and mental well-being is really protecting me right now. So if that makes any sense, I don't know if that made sense, but
No,
that's
it
how
does.
I think of it.
It
So
does, definitely.
yeah, so our last one, and this one was I added because the plate has a cup, so we're gonna add it. But I think it fits really well with like a strengths-based approach and a well-being approach. But what fills your cup? What recharges you? What makes you feel energized? So that would be the last part of this piece.
What other than our brand new darling little puppy who's sleeping over there in the corner? I would say something that you mentioned earlier was just a physical activity. It kind of, I got away from it for a little bit, just with the uncertainty and the ugly weather that we had of just unpredictability. And it was just kind of something that I wasn't motivated to do. And when I finally got back into the swing of things, I saw a significant difference. And so those are things that are just, I didn't realize it kind of seemed as a chore, as something that was, I needed to do. And now I realize how important it is just from a recharging type of standpoint. So that's mine. What about you?
I agree. I think physical activity is great, and I guess recharge would also be self-care, actual self-care, stuff that is going to actually do good things for you. Surprisingly, and this kind of came up in another meeting, which some people might think isn't good, but like, and I'll use myself for example, like a strengths-based approach, I'm very like ideation, input, ideas. So when I'm doing stuff like this, it is like it's my flow, so I get engaged and energized by it. Not necessarily work, but the ability to really tap into that strength in that moment energizes me, and I'm doing something I enjoy. So long term, that's like well-being, right? Long-term well-being is I'm finding meaning and purpose in these strengths that I have. So I really think that even though some people might say like, oh, work's not, no, for me it's like I'm really being able to tap into that flow right now. So that's recharging me, along with like the mental health and the gratitude and the physical and connection, still trying to
Yes.
maintain connection even though we're separated. Those are all cup fillers for me.
I get exactly where you're going with that, and I agree. Once you start to really, like you said, you said it really well. Just like tapping into that strength, it's like a recharge, a surge of energy, and it's just like, yeah, we can do this, and we can do this, and then you just kind of get these creative juices going. And I think I totally agree. So thank you for sharing those.
Oh yes, if you ever want to talk about strengths, we can do that too. That is my like,
Yes.
whew, that is, I love to talk about strength stuff. But it fits really nicely here, and I think it's a great way to kind of end this discussion is talking
Yeah.
about that. And I guess I will go to the next slide. The next slide is one of the modifications you can do. You don't have to use it. It was just kind of, this is so anybody can do it. But if you aren't able to do like a live discussion with staff or students or whatnot, something like this could be sent home on a PDF paper for like a low-tech modification. And I have that information in here too that we can go over. But it can also be sent, or put in like a Google Classroom or something for people to draw on with like paint on the computer, or print out and actually physically draw on and upload. So for this whole activity, you can definitely have modifications, which I think it makes it so versatile for what we're doing right now in terms of teaching and connecting and working with others. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like all of the different modifications of it. You could also come up with your own prompts. Those were just easy template ones that were presented with the activity. But there are so many different things that you can either add to that, and like you said, you can kind of make them a little bit lower vulnerability, to where people feel less intimidated to go as far or as deep as they want to with their responses. And so I like the flexibility of that too. Nothing's set in stone. It's a really good template. It's a really good guide, I think, just to kind of start a conversation and just kind of see where that goes. As you know your students, and kind of their strengths and weaknesses, you're able to adapt even the prompts that we have for the reflection questions.
Yeah, and what a great way to incorporate SEL this way. And that's one thing that a lot of people have been asking about. How can I incorporate SEL? So yeah, you get a great snapshot of where your student is, right? And kind of what they're going through in a, I don't want to say playful, but in a kind of roundabout way, in a visually stimulating, not just straight asking. I don't know what the right term for that is, but it's very kind of roundabout way of kind of really hearing what they're going through and how they're doing. If that makes
I
sense.
even thought, as I'm thinking right now, as those prompts are, all kind of on a play setting, but I even think of those as like, this could be like a weekly assignment, something that just builds on itself. Maybe Monday you ask like, what's on your plate? And then you move over to something, Tuesday is what's, cutting away at your time. And so you kind of get a clearer picture, and your students have more time to truly reflect on the things that are, that they're feeling at that time. And so giving that opportunity for reflection, but really being intentional about giving them time to really reflect, is another, even a different adaptation depending on grade levels, depending on the how much your students want to open up. And so that was something, as you're talking about adaptations, I thought, yeah, there's a ton of different ways this could go.
Yeah, I'm now that you said that, now it's clicking in my head, and it's like that would be great for a weekly assignment. What are you going to take a stab at this week? What do you feel is cutting into your time, or what are you hoping that's not going to cut? Like, we'll be aware of it. So what is normally something that cuts in your time that we're going to be aware of and make sure it doesn't? What questions will you have this week? What help will you need this week? What are you going to do to fill your cup this week? I think that's amazing. I think that's a great way to do this, to keep it relevant and to keep it regular and to keep it, to keep that discussion going. I think that's great.
Yeah, so a lot of different adaptations to this, low tech, high tech, kind of in a whole group discussion, all of those things. And there's a ton of, and so that activity in and of itself could be 5 different assignments, but it is a good way to easily infuse and incorporate SEL. Like you said, a lot of teachers are trying to figure out how they're able to do that from a virtual standpoint. And this is a really good opportunity to to have multiple lessons from just this one activity. And there are a lot of different strategies. This is just one. And I'd love to be able to continue to showcase some of the things that we got from this webinar, and to continue to get feedback from teachers as far as what specifically their needs, so we can continue to help support teachers in the most meaningful way possible.
I agree. And I think this is also something that if teachers are presenting it to students, that they should also kind of engage in and share too. Like,
oh,
this is
true.
good for anybody to do, kind of like we did. It's good to kind of take a moment and reflect and kind of be, like you were saying earlier, intentional about things. And this would make your week kind of intentional. I love doing these types of engagement activities, and I just think they're beneficial for everybody. So
I do too.
yeah, I hope we can do more of these.
I hope so too. I'm looking forward to kind of unpacking and debriefing, because there are multiple activities in there. Some of them are sort of icebreakers, sort of kind of gathering information or giving opportunities for people to be reflective. But there is also a lot of good brain break and movement activities that I think are just as important to incorporate in any lesson, whether it's virtual or otherwise, because that is something that is a very intentional SEL strategy as well, offering brain breaks and being and allowing your students to rely on that self-awareness that they have as far as what they need in order to be the most attentive, the most successful at that time. So I'm looking forward to doing more of these and providing any resources or information that we need in order to help enhance the lessons that teachers are already working very hard on.
Yeah, it's a great activity. Do you have any more final thoughts for this one?
I don't,
Again,
man. Thank you so much
yeah.
for the invite and for sharing. It was something that I think was helpful for me too. Just as I have all of these feelings that are very overwhelming, to be
Hmm.
able to compartmentalize them for me is something that is an easier way to manage and to tackle some of those things, and to really also reflect on some of the positive, some of the
Hmm.
things that are recharging, some of the things that are protective. And so it was a really good reflection, a strategy for me too. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you for, working with me and us collaborating. I think it's amazing, and I'm so looking forward to doing more stuff. So,
Samesies.
alrighty. I'm
All
gonna
right.
see you
Bye.
later.